Okay, guys. Today I guess I'm going to talk about my AoE rotation. This isn't a full build video. I'm not going to do that. Probably the most important thing you need to know about builds in general are just you need to get the right stats. You need to get 68k armor pen, 68k accuracy, as much power as you possibly can, 68k critical, and I believe the most you'll need for combat advantage is 118k. I believe that's the most you'll ever need for Guardian Fighter. It's a little bit less than that because have we have some tools that give us more tactician's edge. It gives us more 10% more combat advantage when our stamina is full. So we only need about 108k compared to other classes that need about 118. So that's one advantage we have. It does seem like Guardian Fighter is pretty much at a disadvantage in terms of raw DPS. The main reason being that while most classes will have 3 offensive companion slots, we have 3 defensive companion slots. And this is our only spot where there is an offensive companion slot, whereas most classes here will have an offense/defense slot. So in terms of like raw stats, we are at a disadvantage because not having those extra offensive slots means that we can be about 20 to 30,000 power behind other people. And that 20 to 30,000 power can add up to be quite a bit. Like when you're considering food and weapon bonuses, some of these, like the new weapons, for example, they'll give you an additional 10% of your power. So, and then you got watermelon sorbet. That's another 10% of base power. But in fact, most gear that gives you a bonus to power, it operates based on percentage. So the less base power you have, the more disadvantage you have compared to other classes that have higher. But I'm not here to talk about other classes. I'm just here to talk about us. So let me just start off by talking about feats. For AoE, the first 2 you want to use are Heavier Slash and Prepared Slam. Now, Heavier Slash, it says it grants your at-will attacks a 20% chance that your next Heavy Slash will deal an additional 200 magnitude damage. Now, just looking at this, it seems like it's a pretty low chance, but there are ways you can manipulate the chances. For example, if you use a couple cleave and then follow it up with a Heavy Slash, you'll notice that it's going to be proccing more often than not. There was a low crit for 440. There's a non-crit for 1000. That's a proc. 440 crit. That's a non-proc. That's a non-crit proc. That's a crit proc. Okay. But what I'm saying is, by spamming those 3 at-wills, you're going to see a lot more procs than if you were just spamming Heavy Slash alone. So that's kind of like, this is kind of like the mold in between of our encounters. We're going to be setting up with 3 Heavy Slashes, 3 cleaves, and then 1 Heavy Slash, and that's going to optimize our chances of actually getting that proc. Okay. Alright, and then Prepared Slam. It says whenever you're under the effect of Heavy Slash, your encounter powers, which deal damage to multiple enemies, consume the Heavy Slash and do an additional 200 magnitude damage. 200 magnitude damage, in theory, is about a 50 to 60% damage increase. So, for example, if I were just to use Tremor, it's hitting for 657 per target. But if I were to then use Tremor again, while under the effect of heavy slash, it should be hitting for about 60% more than that. It's not at the moment. It's bugged. It's actually doing about 5% more damage, where it should be making me do about... It's doing 5 or 6% more damage when it should be doing 50 to 60% more damage. So I'm pretty sure they got a decimal point wrong. And this could be actually a huge reason why Guardian Fighter feels like it's underperforming at the moment. It wouldn't be the first time they got a decimal point wrong, but yeah, where we're supposed to be seeing about a 50-60% damage increase on these AoE abilities, we're only seeing 5 or 6%. But even though it is broken at the moment, I think it's broken. Let me know what you think. But even though it's broken, it's still going to be the choice that you want to take, Prepared Slam, because the other option is Ricochet, which really isn't that great at all. Okay, and then moving on to Roiling Hatred. This is a vengeance maintenance thing. Whenever you critically strike and your vengeance gauge is 50% full, you restore 5 vengeance. So I'm going to get myself to 50% vengeance here. Basically, your vengeance meter should take care of itself because of this. And you should always be over 50% vengeance anyhow. Reason being, we do 10% more damage when we're over 50% vengeance. So yeah, this is just going to help keep it topped off. It's going to make vengeance maintenance super easy. You're not even going to have to think about it most of the time. Okay. Next we have Land Waster. Grants Earthshaker the effect of applying... So basically when your vengeance is above 90%, you get to execute a second daily for free. So yeah, it's good to have... So I'm using my daily now, and you'll see that this second daily shockwave appears, and we can now use that. If you'll notice, after you're using Land Waster, it's going to deplete your vengeance gauge, which should drop it down to 0 again. But you may have noticed my vengeance gauge went back up to 100% almost immediately. And the reason that happened was because of the last feat, Bloody Reprise. Whenever your vengeance gauge drops below 50%, if you use an encounter power in the next 2 seconds, it sets your vengeance gauge back up to 75%. So, yeah. So as soon as you use your daily and you use your your Land Waster, it's gonna deplete your vengeance completely. But then you use an encounter immediately to get your vengeance back up to 75%, and from there it should stay topped off again. So there should be almost no vengeance downtime if you're doing it right. That being said, there are going to be situations where you make mistakes and your vengeance is going to deplete and you're not going to get it back in time. But that is one of the reasons why I run this class feature, Heated Vengeance. It increases the rate at which stamina is converted into vengeance while under the effect of Seethe, which is our tab mechanic. Shouldn't need to use Seethe very much if you're doing good with your vengeance, but this is kind of like an oh shit thing. Like, I just screwed up my rotation. I need to get it back quickly, but I don't want to lose too much stamina. So, tab mechanic, get your stuff back up there without using too much stamina. And remember, we want to keep that stamina high to do the most amount of damage possible. Okay, I'll show it one more time. Okay. Use the daily, and then free daily. Oh, I missed it. It's got to be quick. Yeah. But I think you get the point. As far as AoE goes, I don't think there's any other way to build it. So a lot of these just like they seem okay at first, but then when you use them, they're just not good. Shield throw bounces off to 3 nearby enemies, dealing 30% less damage, then 60% less damage, then 70% less damage. Like, that's just not useful. And I've never used shield throw, to be honest. I don't think it's that great. Crushing blows whenever you... again, not that great. It's going to consume vengeance, and apparently this one... it gets worse the further apart your armor pen is to your power. So if your armor pen and your power are equal, you have a 20% chance to do an additional hit for 100 magnitude damage. That's not great, considering you should have significantly more power than armor pen. Like, if your armor pen and your power are the same, then you have really scuffed power, and you could be doing more damage. It just seems like it's a wasted feat. I don't know why it's there at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. Same with Ricochet. I don't get it. Like, that's not good at all. That's not a good choice. If it was like the first hit did 30% more damage, the second hit did 60% more damage, and the fourth hit did 70% more damage, then yeah, maybe that would be an actual contender. But as it is, doing less damage per hit, I don't think so. That's just stupid. It makes no sense. Also, Weight of Vengeance, Anvil of Doom does 300 more magnitude damage, which seems good, except for the fact that Anvil of Doom already has pretty high magnitude to begin with. So, and then on top of that, it consumes 25 vengeance, which can kind of make it annoying if you're trying to work it into your rotation. And then, I mean, that'd be a single target thing anyway. There's no reason to have Anvil in an AoE rotation anyhow. It's a single target thing. But just because of that alone, I wouldn't use it. It makes vengeance maintenance a little more difficult. But you know, I'll save talking about that more for the single target build. But yeah, okay, so let's just go over this one more time. This is kind of like the AoE thing, and we're going to be using this in between our encounters. It's basically 3 hits of cleave followed by a heavy slash. Even work the doohickey in there. Now, it actually is not. I use the Wyvern Venom coated knives because it has a 15-second cooldown. And I combo that with Opportunism, that when you use an artifact power, it reduces your cooldowns by 30%. It is actually not necessary. If you have like a nice steady rotation, that's not something that you need. I think it's more of a convenience thing for me personally. If I find myself with everything on cooldown, I can just pop that. But for the most part, it's a nice steady rotation. You're getting... a big hit every 3 hits. Doohickey. Get one of those if you can, by the way. It's like having a free encounter. Like there, for example. Everything was on cooldown. I know at this point you're probably getting tired of seeing it, but you kind of get the point. It's important to kind of go at a steady pace. Yeah, I'm using a wooden longsword, by the way. That's why some of the numbers you're seeing are pretty low. I just want the numbers to be more consistent. If you want to test, you can use one too. At this point, I think the video is running long, but hopefully you got the idea behind the build, or at least you understand how the rotation works. Being able to kind of maximize the proc chance of heavy slash to do that additional 200 magnitude damage is huge. It's gonna almost guarantee 50,000 to 150,000 crit, depending on, every 3 seconds. So that's a big like damage supplement right there. Now I really wish this were working. I really wish Prepared Slam were working, because having our AoE encounters hit for 200 additional magnitude would be amazing. And now at the moment it seems like it's only hitting for an additional 20 magnitude. So please fix this. I hope somebody fixes this, because it would be really nice to see what our actual potential is. I'm sure it'll be fixed by the time it goes to console, but you never know. Oh, also one more thing I wanted to talk about is Enduring Vengeance. Enduring Vengeance is not going to be for this build, because when you use your daily and you proc that second daily, it's going to drop you back down under to 0 vengeance, and every time you drop down to under 50% vengeance, this effect is just going to wear off. So you're going to find yourself trying to build up to 5 stacks, and the 5 stacks is going to be worth only 5% more damage, and then it's just going to go away the second you use a daily. So it's pretty much a wasted slot. I use combat superiority to get the most out of my at-will attacks. Whenever you activate an encounter or daily, you increase the damage dealt by our at-wills for like 10 seconds. And as you saw, we're using encounters pretty steadily with at-wills in between. So I just think this is a good choice. Also, I have Heated Vengeance as my oh shit button. I'm not really going to go over what encounters I use. You guys can figure out what the best encounters are. I'm not going to talk about my boons. There's pretty much a set. No matter what class you are, you want to use the same boons. You want to use boons that give you power. You want to use boons that give you HP. You want to use boons that make you do additional damage. But yeah, I think you guys should be more than capable of putting together your own build. I think the rotation in the feats is maybe the only tricky part. I'll get to my single target build another time. Like I said, this is running long and I just keep making it longer. So yeah, I'm going to go edit this, put it out, and I'll see you next time.